chicken, how do you say this? Is it escallops? Escallops?
Look, you put my knife and fork. I eat left-handed even though I'm right-handed.
So remember, we're ignoring the cameras.
Oh, we're ignoring the cameras.
Yes.
Make sure that my tips here are lined up. Now I'm confused by terminology. Flattened out, that's an escallop, isn't it? I can't. And our snowdrift is going to sit. Oops. Our snowdrift is going to
Say a very Merry Christmas.
To each other.
No, to the camera. Now we acknowledge the camera. We're going to break the fourth wall.
I don't know what to call it. Okay, I've flattened out the chicken. Making myself laugh now. Sorry. So I'll make sure the very tip here is nice and lined up. No.
What was this?
Someone who's been on camera so much. Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show. So chock full of Christmas goodness, it's like the double issue of the Radio Times.
Which I haven't got yet.
I know.
Haven't got it yet.
We've been on a mission.
Well, we were in the shop on the 11th, right? And I was like, oh, it'll be out. Scanned everywhere, was not there. Of course, it came out on the 12th, apparently.
So I was in the shop on the 12th. It's like we're always in the shop. Not out yet.
They hadn't put it on the shelves yet. So I'm going to go today, which is a couple of days further on. I don't even know what the date is today.
Many people are probably wondering, what is the double issue of the Christmas Radio Times?
Well, the Radio Times, if you don't know, is a TV guide. Back in the day, you always had the Radio Times and the TV Times. They still do those two publications, but you had to do that because the Radio Times was BBC and the TV Times was ITV.
Yes. It's basically what's on TV.
What's on the
telly. Whole of the Christmas period.
And the ironic thing is, we barely watch TV these days.
Yeah, I've got
honestly
to be honest,
barely watch it.
She's like a dog with a bone with the Radio Times, and I was sort of laughing about it this morning because it was like sort of cute that she's like, I've got to get the Radio Times today.
So I'm going to go to Asda today, so it must be desperate if I'm going to Asda.
I think we looked once at the Radio Times.
We did. I got it last year, and then it just sat underneath a little table in the living room, and I never picked it up. I looked at it once, flicked through, thought, yeah, it's just the same old stuff on again.
Who cares about the Radio Times? Because you don't need the Radio Times when you've got the Bakery Bears video show Christmas special.
Christmas special, my goodness.
Who's
I've got
ready?
My sparkly tree on today.
And what you need on a sparkly tree is felt ornaments.
Yes, you do.
Are you ready for some felt ornaments?
We're going to do a bit of making today.
What about a complete Christmas dinner with most of the trimmings?
Yeah.
Christmas dinner for you without any of the fuss.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely amazing. Yeah. And we are, because it's Christmas, we are deep into our Christmas film watching binge.
Yes.
And it's marvellous.
It's fantastic. We've been watching some classics, haven't we?
Yes.
Which has just been brilliant.
We watched The Bishop's Wife the other day.
Do you know, I'd never heard of this film. It's from 1947.
With Archie Leach.
Is that who it is?
No, that's Cary Grant.
Cary Grant's in it. And it's from 1947, a black and white film, and I'd never heard of this film. And I was watching Miranda Mills and her mum the other day, and they were doing a Christmas Q&A. She's got a YouTube channel. But anyway, she was having a discussion with her mum, Donna Mills, her mum's name. I just love that. And her mum said that her favourite Christmas film was The Bishop's Wife, and I was like, what is that? So I went looking, found out it's this black and white film. It's not technically a Christmas film, I would say.
It's just set at Christmas.
It's set at Christmas. Yeah, it's set at Christmas, and it involves an angel coming down to help David Niven, who plays the bishop. And it was just so lovely because it's so vintage and from a different time and place in the world. It was just like, I could just watch films like this all day.
Highly recommended.
Really, really, if you just want a classic, anybody can sit down and watch it. Just fantastic feeling film. It was brilliant.
And familiar faces in the film.
Yes.
Because would you believe There's a scene,
There's a
isn't there?
scene which is pretty much exactly like the scene in It's a Wonderful Life. You know, when George is a child and he's playing on the ice? There's a scene just like that.
Yeah.
And guess what? The boy who played George Bailey as a boy is in the film.
In what looks like the same costume.
He looks exactly the same. And we looked at when they were made, and It's a Wonderful Life, I think, was 1946.
Yeah.
And then this one was 1947. And
Very cool. Oh, yes, it was a
Brilliant.
really, really good film. You know, Christmas is all about nostalgia, isn't it? And there's a film full of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Look, this is a show so chock full, it's like a Christmas stocking.
It really is.
Where you don't know where to start. There's so much to get to. So, I think it's high time that I said, Kay Jones, what's on your noodles?
Why did you say it like a little mouse?
Because I'm an elf. I'm a Christmas elf.
You silly. Okay. So
You silly.
You silly. So the first thing that's...
240 episodes and she's only just realised.
No, darling. I realised that maybe not the first day I met you, that you were silly.
You maybe did.
Maybe I did.
You probably did.
Thinking back. Yeah,
Yes,
possibly.
yes.
Anyway, the first thing
As we
that
danced
I've
the night
got-
away in that nightclub.
We did indeed. It's probably the last time we danced the night away. Oh, I've lost a stitch.
No, we've
Yeah.
danced since then.
We have danced since
We dance
then.
regularly, actually.
We do in the kitchen.
Yes,
We do.
we do.
We do.
I wasn't.
Not disco dancing. Don't imagine us disco dancing in the kitchen.
We did quite recently.
I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
No. That was you doing things. You know, we spoke about this in a previous episode when Kay was dancing to Stevie Wonder and did a hip.
Put me back
but
out.
About 3 weeks before that, I was like doing my moves.
You're doing your moves.
And you came and joined in, and so did Bryony, and it
that's
was
right.
cool.
Yeah, Bryony was loving it.
We had a great time.
We were having a bit of a disco dance in the kitchen.
Yes.
But generally speaking, me and Dan do a little bit of sort of classic ballroomy
That's more my cup of tea.
dancing around the kitchen. Right.
The best things happen when you're dancing.
I feel like I saw a film recently where they were dancing.
Danny
to
Kaye
that.
last night.
Oh, White Christmas.
Oh, yes.
We were watching White Christmas last night in bed, which was lovely. I mean, again, another lovely
Kay said
film.
to me, "We're going to have the best Christmas since Bing Crosby danced with Danny Kaye."
Yeah. We're not going down that route. No, but I also actually started watching the other day Holiday Inn, thinking, oh yeah, it's another classic black and white. And I watched about half of it, and do you know what? I wasn't really feeling it.
No.
I don't know what it is about it. Don't know.
I'm not a lover
sure.
of Fred Astaire in films, I'll be honest.
Do you know, I think it might have been that. I mean, his dancing is obviously
He's amazing.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But his presence other than that
It's just
as an
not quite-
actor,
No.
I just wasn't really feeling it. You know, I loved him dancing. Amazing.
Yeah.
So my first on my needles is my Advent scarf. And I'm keeping up.
That is stupendous.
I've kept up every single day, and it's been a bit of a struggle, I'll be honest. But I've finished a couple of things, which now makes the knitting of this easy. It's a doddle. I can easily fit it in. But yeah, I've kept up every day. So I opened day 13 this morning, and I've knit in the first 12. So had I cast it on? I don't even... No, I didn't. I opened it with you, didn't I? I opened the first one.
That's
which
stupendous.
was this one here where I cast on.
It's ginormous.
I know, and then I've worked all my way through. So here are all of the colours so far. And this is an advent, a yarn advent from Beaches and Birdsong in the UK. I think the lady's name is Josie. I'll be honest with you, right? It's so pretty that I kind of wish I hadn't knit it. Honestly, I do. Because...
The yarn.
Yes,
Yes.
I wish I'd still got it all so I could line it all up and look at it and just enjoy looking at the yarn for a bit. So, you know, in hindsight, I don't know even if I want to knit Advent yarns because I really like having the whole thing to look at. I cannot say enough good words about this Advent calendar because what she's done, I've got day 13's here to show you, which I opened this morning, but I haven't wound up yet. So I get to look at it a bit longer than the others because I just want, you know, it's been kind of a squeeze to fit all the knitting in that I've had to do Advent-wise to this point. I'm all right now. Things are a bit more chilled. I've had to open it, wind it, knit it. So I've just not had a chance to sort of admire it. And that's why I say that I think it would have been lovely to look at all of the colours. I mean, just to tell you some of the colourway names, we started with Evacuation. So this advent calendar is based on The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. The first colourway, Evacuation, as in children were evacuated to the country during the war. So that was the first one. And then we had Rain. We'll see how many I can remember. Because what she's done is she's working her way through the book, choosing key points to dye yarn inspired by and then to name. So like today, there's like a little slip of paper in each one with the details. So I'll see which ones I can remember. So we've got Evacuation, Rain, because it was raining, if you remember, on that first day they arrived in the house. Through the Wardrobe, I believe this one. Lucy, the pink. Lamppost in the Woods, I believe is this one. Mr. Tumnus, the brown. Narnia is this gorgeous blues and greens and sort of purples and pinks. I can't remember that one, but I know that one is the White Witch, which is gorgeous. It's white, but it's got tiny specks of pink and gold in it. It's gorgeous. There's a little progress keeper there that I got also in it at one point. Turkish Delight, this gorgeous pink. The peach is something to do with marmalade pudding that the beavers make, or marmalade something or other. I think it's a pudding of some kind. And then this one, which was yesterday, is stone statues. And then today's is Father Christmas. Do you know how they meet Father Christmas, don't they? And it's this gorgeous one. So it's variegated with reds and a bit of grey there. And you get this little slip of paper telling you the name of the yarn and then a little snippet from the book, you know, with that sort of inspiration point in it. So how fun is that? There's been a couple of different yarn bases actually. That is the only thing I will say. It makes no difference to me because different bases don't matter because I'm knitting a scarf. It really doesn't matter. But if you were knitting something else, maybe socks. I think all of the bases that she's used have got nylon in. So again, it probably wouldn't be a problem. But you might not want that difference in bases. So I've had a couple of them have been a 2-ply base. And then the White Witch was a sparkle base. But I think what she's done, and I don't know, but like, for example, the sparkle base, having sparkle with the White Witch, that really works, doesn't it? And then the two that have been a 2-ply base, one of them was Through the Wardrobe, the brown, and then I can't remember the other one. Oh, it was this grey and green. I can't remember what that was. It's going to bug me, so I'm going to look. Hang on, because I've got them here. I'm keeping all the little ticket things. Oh, Always Winter but Never Christmas, this one. And that was a 2-ply as well. So, like I say, it's made no difference because I'm knitting a scarf, so it really doesn't matter if there's a slight difference in gauge. Sometimes I've been able to get 20 rounds because I started off with 20 rounds in the mini, but sometimes I've run out and I've only managed to get 19 rounds. So again, that's either my gauge or just slight differences in the base and the yardage. But, you know, 1 round doesn't matter for what I'm doing. So the yarn I'm using in between to separate off the colours is an Eden Cottage yarn, and I'm holding these double. I don't think I said. I'm holding the mini double and I'm holding the contrast yarn double as well. So I'm using a skein of Milburn 4-ply, which is a BFL silk base, fingering weight, and you get 200 metres for 50 grams. And the colour that I'm using as the contrast here is called Black Tulip, which is a really deep purple. I've got my 2 little balls here. It's a really lovely colour. I've actually ordered another ball of this because I thought 50 grams would be enough split into 2. But I don't think it's going to be. I've only got this left, which I haven't weighed it, but I would guess that each of these balls is maybe about 10, 11 grams, and I've done 12 stripes, so I will need another ball, but I have ordered another one. So I'm using 4.5mm needle, 16-inch circular, and I cast on 100 stitches. So it's making a nice wide scarf, but I think it's just going to be so lovely and such a nice reminder of December. And, you know, if she does another advent calendar next year, I'm going to be on it. Like, you know, I can't even tell you, because I've just loved every aspect of it. I love, nice all rolled up. I love that it's following through the book. I love that it's not a sort of generic theme where the colours might... I'm not massively keen on fades, for example. I like that they're all different. I don't know what I'm going to get, because when it's a fade, you kind of know, when you've had a few, you kind of know where it's going to go, don't you? And I just enjoy getting the different colours every day. And it's just been fantastic. I can't compliment this advent calendar enough. And like I said, the only regret I've got is that I'm knitting it, and that sounds stupid, doesn't it? In hindsight, I wish I hadn't, so that I could just look at all of the lovely minis for a bit longer before I knit them. But it's just fantastic. I'm really, really loving it. So, Dan Jones, what's on your needle?
It's a Christmas present, and I'm on the toe decreases right now because it's this wonderful sock. Yes, I'm sorry to be boring because I did show you this last time and I normally rotate my projects, but I was so close to the end, I wanted to get this finished. It's the Whispers in the Wall socks, and it's such a wonderful knit. And this literally is it now. I am at the very, very end. I'm on the toe decreases, and I'll have it finished amazingly in time for there to be Kay's Christmas socks.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
I know, I'm so excited.
It's like, oh my goodness, I've actually
them.
succeeded in getting something finished sort of on time.
It kind of reminds me as well, I know it might not seem a typical Christmas colourway, and I suppose it isn't.
But it's Harry Potter themed.
It's Harry Potter themed.
Christmas comes in many forms.
Yeah, I mean, this is, after all this time, I dyed this colour. Can you see, if I hold it close, can you see any of the tiny specks in there of colour? But yeah, it's a Harry Potter colourway, so I always think of that as a bit festive.
Oh, definitely.
And it also reminds me of sort of soot. Like Santa coming down the chimney and getting all sooty.
So I'm knitting it on my favourite square needles, which is the cubics, and I swear by cubics when it comes to DPNs. I can't knit, well, I can knit on round ones, but I'm just not very good at all because the yarn tends to drop off. Sometimes does on this. I also did as well, I've invented a new thing. Look, here's the sock. Here's the sock on the toe decreases, but I invented a new thing. It's my special type of ribbing, because sometimes I think that you want a bit more grip on the back of your leg. So I thought what I'd do is when I started the lace on the front, I'd carry on the ribbing on the back for a round. I'm going to have to give it a name.
I was looking at it the other night and I'm like, why is the ribbing going down further than it should do here? And like you say, you just forgot that you were supposed to stop ribbing at this point.
I forgot to stop.
But it just adds a little bit of character.
I was having so much fun.
A little bit of Dan character into my socks. Yes. I can't wait to have these because I do love shorty socks right now.
Yes.
They just seem to suit me.
I love the fact that there's always a new way of making a mistake on us.
There's always a new way of making a mistake in everything, isn't there? Let's face it.
There is, but I mean, you just would never have thought, would you? You would have thought, okay, you've knitted the rib too long on one of the... Oh, no, you haven't done that. You've just knitted too long on the back. So at least it's not visible. So just make sure you're always walking towards people if ever you're wearing them and people can see the ribs. Yeah.
Only if they're down low enough to look at the ribs on my socks, then there's a problem, really, isn't there?
Also, it's not very often that they can... It's not very often the ribs on your socks are visible.
Well, no.
No,
not so
I don't know what I'm worried about.
Well, I wouldn't worry about anything, to be quite honest.
But look at the yarn, though. Isn't it spectacular?
You see all the specks of colour, isn't it lovely?
It's beyond gorgeous.
Oh, it's so nice.
You see, I appreciate yarn when I'm knitting with it because that's when I can see it all, knitting up into the lovely fabric. And now look.
Lots left over for me.
Yes. Tip off. I'm going to do the Sherwood socks next. Is there any nice yarn I could use?
I've got a green.
Oh, that'll do. That'll do.
Look.
Oh, yes.
I dyed this one.
Good.
I dyed this one a while ago.
Excellent.
I can't even think why I dyed this one, but this would be
perfect why you dyed it.
For you.
You dyed it for me to knit the Sherwood socks.
Look at this one I dyed.
That, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't imagine why I dyed this.
I need to make that a new cast on for the new year.
This is a 2-ply, 85. I think it's an 85-15, but it's a high twist. But this will be perfect for you, wouldn't it? Look at that.
Beyond perfect.
How amazing am I? Oh, let me see. I've got one right here.
Yes. Here's one I prepared
That wasn't rehearsed, anybody.
No.
I mean, so yeah, Dan's going to use this one.
Spectacular, Danny.
Some Sherwood socks. There you go, you can have that.
Those are my marvellous Whispers in the Wall socks.
And I can't wait to have them.
About to be
I'm very
finished.
excited. I
Then they'll be blocked.
bought myself some new pyjamas to open on Christmas Eve.
They're all sooty as well.
They're not sooty, they're green with Christmas trees on. Because I couldn't find, as you know, I couldn't find my usual Christmas pyjamas from Sainsbury's this year because they're all rubbish. So I found some at Next.
Beautiful.
So
Whispers in the Walls, that will be a finished project very early in the new year because I will have these done for Christmas.
Yes.
Wonderful. What else is in your brown paper bag?
Well,
it's a new segment.
I do have a brown paper bag right behind me that I'm going to show you in a minute. But my next project is a new cast on, and I've been so excited to cast this on. But because I was had these Advent things and I had Christmas gifts I had to finish, so I was working on 2 pairs of socks and my Advent scarf every day. Goodness. And fitting all that in with everything else that goes on.
It's a lot of knitting.
Through December. It was quite a struggle. I was knitting very early in the morning, and then I was also doing it for bedtime knitting, so it was all through the day. But anyway, I finished those socks. I'm going to show you those later. So it meant I could cast on a pair of socks for me. What inspired this cast on was that yarn that I just showed you that I'm using as a contrast yarn for my scarf. The Eden Cottage yarn Milburn 4-ply. And I really liked it. I was holding it double for that. And as I was knitting with it, I'm thinking, do you know what? This is an 85-15. It's 85 BFL, it's 15 silk. This is going to be a strong fibre. And silk I think it's actually a stronger fibre than nylon. So I thought, do you know what? I could knit socks with this, and I was so excited to give it a try. I didn't know how it was going to feel to knit with or anything like that. There was a huge range of colours in this yarn at Eden Cottage, and I'd actually bought a few colours potentially to use for the Advent scarf because I didn't know what colours were going to be in the yarn, the Advent calendar yarn. So I'd bought a few colours, and I've got a few of them here in this bag, and I'll show you a couple of those in a minute. But what I've decided to do is I'm making a little shorty pair of socks for me, but I'm using a ball of the Eden Cottage, and I'm using my leftovers of the Yule Ball yarn. Do you know I was going on about that last time, saying how it was too precious a skein to use, and it's still up there. So it's the Yule Ball self-striping yarn from London House Yarns, but I had 20 grams left over from another skein. So I thought, right, I'm going to take one of these 50-gram Eden Cottage balls, and I'm going to split that 20 grams of Yule Ball into 2 10 grams, and I'm going to knit myself a pair of socks. So I've started them. This yarn is interesting, right, because at first, I'll be honest, when I started knitting with it, in socks, I wasn't sure if I liked it for socks because it was a little bit thin in some places, and I was like, not sure about this. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to keep going because I was just curious to see, first of all, how it would look in a finished pair of socks, how it would feel to wear them, and how they would actually wear, on your feet kind of thing. So I thought, I'm going to carry on. And actually, the more I knit with it, the more I liked it. And yes, it does go a little bit thin in spots. It's kind of got when you're knitting with it, because you put a bit of tension on the yarn, when it sort of pulls, it can look like it's a bit thinner. But when you let go of it, it sort of poofs up. It's hard to describe. So when it's knit into the fabric itself on the sock, it's kind of lovely. There's one thing I've noticed about it, and I'll tell you in a minute. It's probably going to be apparent when you look closely at the fabric. But here's my cast on and my little leg. And I chose this pink. The colourway for this one is called Azalea. So it's exactly the same yarn. and it's azalea. I've done my little legs, so I've done 12 rounds of a cuff and then 24 rounds of a leg. And what I noticed is when I put it down for the evening, then the next day I picked it back up again and started knitting, I was getting that look in the fabric. Do you know, like if you put your knitting down for a long time and then pick it back up and you can start knitting and then you see that last round you've knit because it's a little bit sort of stretched. It looked like that, and I'd only knit on it the day before. You can probably tell, if you look closely at the fabric, you can probably see those rows that look a bit untidy. And that's sort of, it's a bit odd, isn't it, that happens? I've never ever had that happen unless I've left a project for ages on the needles because it can stretch it out a bit. But this literally, I put it down one night and picked it up the next, and it was happening. So that must be some characteristic of the yarn, I don't even know. But again, I think, well, I know that will block out. I know when I give them a soak, that will all even out. For whatever reason, I am really enjoying knitting with this yarn, even though it's not a perfect sock yarn, I would say. And probably not designed to knit socks with. I don't know. I don't know what Victoria's at Eden Cottage, I don't know what her thoughts were when she designed this particular yarn. I would guess it's maybe an all-round type of yarn. And I think it comes in a DK version as well, I think. Because for me, that 15% silk, and BFL's a strong fibre, you do see that quite a lot in sock yarns. I do think it will wear really nicely. So what I'm doing is I'm now going to knit a heel flap turn, gusset decreases, and then when I've finished the gusset decreases, I'm going to bring in my 10 grams of striping yarn that I've got here. I'm going to knit that and just see how far it goes. It might be that it gets me to the toe, and that would be great, or it might not. I don't know yet. But I split it into two little balls, and I counted my stripes as I was winding these off. One of them's got 14 stripes, one of them's got 13 stripes. So whatever happens, maybe I might be able to get 12 stripes into each sock, something like that. I'm just going to see what happens. But I thought this pink would be really nice with the colours. There is a pink in this, but it's not the same shade of pink, so I think that should be really nice. And I'm using 2.5mm double points. These are Knit Picks Sunstruck, which are my favourite. And I always use 2.5mm on double points because I knit tighter using them. So I get I've measured my gauge actually because I was interested to see what gauge I was getting, and it's about the same I get with a normal sock yarn. It's 8.5 stitches to the inch. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what these are like. The fabric's really nice. It feels slightly woolly. You know that it's not that kind of slick 75-25.
I like a woolly wool.
Yeah, it does feel slightly woolly, but it's also got a sort of sheen to it because of the silk and because of the BFL. Feels lovely. So I'm really, really interested to see how these come out.
And how they wear.
And how they wear, more importantly. And I've got a few of the colours, just to give you an idea on some of the colours. They're really pretty. So I've got charcoal, which is just a really nice grey. This one is thyme. Beautiful soft green. This one is a word I can't pronounce.
Oh, let me try. Althea.
I think. Althea? Yeah. It's a soft sort of taupey colour, slightly pink. And then this gorgeous lavender shade, which is called Dusk. And I do wonder, this is the exact dye colour, of a landscape dye, which is called Dusk. And I do wonder if that's the dye that's been used to dye it. It's one of my favourite shades to use. I will let you know. I'll have at least one finished sock by the time we next see you, and I'll be able to give a full sort of report of what it was like knitting the whole thing. But like I say, I started off thinking, no, I'm not sure I like this, but the more I knit with it, the more it sort of, I warm to it. It's got character. I think that's the thing. It feels a very characterful yarn. And I really like that. It's got personality. I don't know quite how to describe why I really like this yarn, because there's lots of elements in it that make me normally think that I shouldn't like it. But I absolutely love it. And I may have ordered a few other colours. Don't even. So yeah, I will keep you posted on that.
I don't know. There was shades of Jane McDonald there. That was quite cool.
That's there. We've been watching too much Jane.
Don't even.
Too much Jane. Can there possibly be too much Jane McDonald?
Yes.
I don't even really.
Yes,
think
there can.
Okay.
We were watching Jane McDonald Unseen.
Oh yeah.
And you can see why it had been unseen.
Yeah, they'd obviously gone back and sort of put this episode together.
We need some filler.
Yeah, put this episode together of all the bits they cut out when they originally did it, and we're like, yeah, I can understand why this was cut out. But she's in Iceland, which is phenomenal. It
Truly
is
wonderful.
like she's doing a cruise all the way around Iceland.
It calls to me.
Oh my goodness. I mean, spectacular country.
And the Icelandic viewers, we're thinking of you.
Oh, we would we would absolutely love to go there.
Speaking of the wonderful mountains of Iceland, are there mountains in Iceland?
Yes, well, volcanoes,
Yes,
darling.
of course.
Volcanoes.
Speaking of the wonderful volcanoes in Iceland, look at this. It is the Quantock Hat, and Kay and I we disagree on this.
Yes.
So run with me on this. It is evening in the summer in the Quantocks.
Right.
There is grass on the hills,
Okay.
but as the sun dims, as it drops,
Yes.
a purple haze
Right.
flows across the landscape
Can anybody see
from the
that?
sky down onto the ground.
Can anybody see that?
Where it's even difficult because it's a little bit cloudy. It's a little bit cloudy. Sometimes it's difficult to see where the Quantocks end and the clouds begin.
I would agree with that.
Come on. It rules, baby.
Right.
I love this.
The two colours, it's kind of difficult to distinguish.
It is not.
Okay.
Everyone can see it.
Right.
They're with me. I love it.
Nice colours, though, isn't it?
Feederbrook Farm yarns.
Yes.
And it's just the business.
And this is your second one of these you're knitting, isn't it?
It is. And thoroughly enjoying it. And again, you're doing pretty well. I mean, probably a couple of inches to go. I don't know. This one's for you, of course.
Yes.
So I'll just, I'll go as long as you want me to go. And
I love green and purple together.
I know.
That looks epic.
Doesn't it?
Green and purple.
And the pink. You see, what I love about this is I think it's got definite lady vibes. This, for me, is a feminine hat.
Lady vibes.
Yes, because a bit of pink. There's a pink hue over the hat.
Quite feminine colour, I suppose.
Feminine
yes.
without screaming, this hat's for a lady.
Okay.
And that, for me, I like anything that's subtle. I used to like wearing Star Wars T-shirts, but I didn't like anything
You don't
that
so
just
much.
went
No.
blur Star Wars.
Yeah.
I like subtle ones.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you weren't really sure what you were looking at until you really, or if you know.
Yeah.
Those are the types of things I like to wear. I don't like to scream anything.
No.
I think it's because I'm so tall.
Yeah, whereas Bryony just screams
Likes to scream.
everything.
That's lovely.
Which is
Go for it.
brilliant, isn't it?
Please do go for it.
Yeah.
She's in the middle of her final A-level mocks.
She is.
And she's actually doing great.
Yeah.
She's really dealing with it brilliantly, and
It's been a really, really tough year.
2 years.
Tough 2 years. These
Yes.
A-level years have been really tough years for her.
But
and
she's picking up
she
just
is.
at the right moment.
Yeah, she is. She's been working so hard,
Yeah.
and she was really struggling with certain aspects of it. But she's worked so hard, and she's really improved. And her teachers have just been so great. And so it's been a real journey these
Really
past 2
has.
years, working up to her A levels, which are in May, June next year. Yeah.
What's been lovely for us is seeing her change in attitude towards it, from it being a chore to no longer it being a chore, and now she's just sort of getting on with it.
She's getting on with
and
it.
getting some success, which is great, because that's all you ever want, isn't it, for your loved ones, if they're working hard on something.
And she is working so hard, and she's doing art A level, one of her A levels, and she's got this big portfolio that she's been working on, and they had to come up with a theme right at the beginning. They could do anything, couldn't they?
Yeah.
And she chose to do science fiction.
Come on.
And her teacher was actually thrilled because no one had ever wanted to do science fiction before. So she's just been doing some brilliant work based all around science fiction. There's all kinds of genres in there. you know, from Star Wars, Star Trek, but then there's random things as well, isn't there? Like she's included Futurama and
Jurassic Park.
Because
that's science fiction.
that is classed as a science fiction film. You know, she did a lot of research as to which films are categorised as science fiction, and some of the pieces that she's done are just, you know, brilliant. She's
Very
put
cool.
such a lot of work in, loads of different media as well.
So, last thing on this, I couldn't recommend this yarn more, to be honest. I know I've said this before, but if you're looking for a really nice yarn that's bordering on handspun but isn't, then definitely give this a go, because it's just great. Feeder Brook Farm Yarns. But it's the Quantock Hat, a pattern. Well, not really a pattern.
No, I just made it up.
A made-up little recipe.
Yes.
That has just enabled me to knit a couple of really gorgeous hats. And I'm excited now about what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or dares to dream.
Yes, indeed.
What else is on your festive Christmas needles?
So the last thing on my needles is another new cast on. Now this one was motivated by me having a bit of a tidy out of my yarns here behind me, and one of these cube thingies just had like a tangle of leftover yarns in. Do you know where you just throw in leftover yarns and then the ends are not properly wound in, and they just it was just like spaghetti nightmare yarn situation. So I thought, right, I'm going to have a tidy out. So I got them all out, I wound them all, I sorted them all out, and that left me with this big bag of all little leftover bits of yarn. Oh, isn't that lovely in there? So I just threw them all into this bag initially, and I was like, do you know, I could make something with those. What could I do? And then it struck me that I could do another reading shawl. Yes, I know. So the reading shawl, or my reading shawl, the pattern is called, is a design of mine that I put out a few months ago now, maybe 2 months ago. And I've knit two of them. I knit the original one, which was for the pattern, and then I knit another one for Bryony, which she uses very regularly when she's reading. And I thought I could just do a scrappy one. So I can just take the structure of the reading shawl, you know, the way it's constructed, just then ignore all of the striping that goes on in it, and just knit until I run out of one yarn, and then choose another, add it in, and carry on knitting. So it's pure scrappiness. And I've got a couple of rules, right, for this. The first rule is, right, I put it, when I've finished a yarn, I have to put my hand in without looking and just pull out a yarn. And I've got to use that yarn, okay?
Except when I did it and you put it back because it was rubbish.
No.
Was that for a different project?
I didn't. Well, I restarted this.
Okay.
Right, I restarted it, and I'll tell you why I restarted it in a minute. So, no, that might have been when I was doing it before, and that's when I then changed the rule. I think
remember
that I had to use whatever yarn comes out, because then it's a pure scrappy thing, isn't it? So that was the first rule, and the second rule was I just knit the yarn until it was finished. So I just joined in the new yarn wherever that happened, because really, normally I would always join it like at the fairly beginning of the row so that you don't get that pearl blip thingy happening. But I was like, no, this is just going to be absolutely pure randomness, which goes against everything that I normally do. I normally really love to choose the colours, and I want to place them in the right, you know, thing, and I want the right order and all of that. So this has been really interesting, because it is absolutely just put my hand in the bag, or Bryony or Dan, that is the yarn I'm using. And what I did originally was, I was whatever yarn, so let's just pull one out. So we've got this one. So I would pull out a yarn, and then I was holding it double with like I think it was just a natural coloured yarn. I can't remember what colour it was, because the reading shawl is yarn held double, fingering weight held double. I wasn't really liking, because what would happen is, for example, if you've got a really dark one like that, and then when you pair it with a white or a pale, you get that look, don't you, where I'm not really keen on that look where you've got a really pale yarn together with a really dark yarn. So what I decided was I would rip it out and start again, which I did, But what I'm now doing is, I put my hand in, I grab a yarn, and then I'm splitting that yarn into two and holding that double. And that's working out much better. So I just finished a colour this morning, and I put my hand in and I pulled out, and it's just a small bit actually, but I've split it and I'm ready to add this one in. So the one I pulled out this morning was only about 7 grams. But I thought, no, I'm going to do it because that's the rule. So I split it into two, and it's this sort of natural beigey sort of colour. So those 2 little bits will be going in next. And this is where I'm up to. So here is my scrappy reading shawl so far. And actually, I really love it. So we started off with that greyish one in the top. And then we got this bluish, pinkish one. That one, I think, is a dandelion and dogwood from an advent calendar. Into a pink, and then into that purple. Which, again, that purple was a small one, so I just got a little bit. But when I started the purple, you can see there's quite a big section where you get the pearl blip from the previous colour because of where I added it in. But I'm just going with it. And actually, it's really freeing, not to have that, not to have that mind, which I normally have, of it looking, the order of the yarns looking right and me adding the yarn in at exactly the perfect point and all of that. With this, I'm literally just picking up a yarn, adding it in when it's finished, putting my hand in the bag, choosing, oh, that's a nice one. I think I dyed that one. Choosing another one, splitting it in half and then carrying on. So it's really fun and perfect, I think, for us all. We've all got these leftovers like this, haven't we? And also, if you are knitting an advent calendar and you do have leftovers, quite often you might have 10 grams left over, might you? And they get thrown into a bag. So I think it's just great for something like this. I don't know how much of this I'm going to use because the reading shawl does use a lot of yarn. I can't remember off the top of my head actually how much I use, but it does use a lot of yarn. So it might be that I get all of these in there, you never know. I can't wait to use that one. I dyed this one as well. Can't wait to use that one. That's fun, isn't it? But I think the with these types of projects, this type of a project, I think it just, the more random it is, if you're going to go random, I think the more random it is, the better it looks. So I think the crazier colour combination I get, the better, rather than it being planned. And I think it's going to be lovely. I've got no agenda for this. It might be the type of project that I just put away for a bit if I get busy doing other things, and then I bring it out and I might do it again for a bit. So I've got no sort of deadline or anything. But I'm really enjoying it. And I think it's just a really nice alternative to that planned, ordered mind, which is how I normally work.
And to think, if it was for Big Teddy, you'd have finished.
Oh, yeah, we've not got a teddy here that I could wrap it around. But I did put it around Pooh Bear last night and it fit him perfectly, so yeah.
Oh. Now, look, it's time for some festive goodness.
Yes.
Now, we are, of course, partway through this year's Bakery Bears Advent Calendar, but that is just part of our Christmas offering. Now, as you know, every year we like to take a look at something and try and improve it. And this year, Handmade Christmas has come under our microscope. So, using, for the first time ever, every single thing that we've learned about creating a studio-based cooking show, it's time for Kay to take us through Christmas dinner without the fuss.
Yeah.
And then in part 2, you're going to take us through making the most amazing festive ornament. It's just, or seasonal ornament,
seasonal,
we should call it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because you could use it
anytime.
Actually,
use it any time of year.
Use it all year.
It's more winter themed than it is Christmas themed, yeah.
But if you're like me, you love winter. And I would love to look at something wintry in the middle of summer. Oh
yes.
The hills, the snow-covered mountains, the snow-covered volcanoes of Iceland.
Yeah.
Just perfect.
Yeah.
So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to introduce our brand new and improved Kay's Handmade Christmas.
Christmas can be such a wonderful time of year. With family visiting and guests popping in, there are so many opportunities to be creative. But I think we all know that also brings a great feeling of pressure to make delicious food and to give the perfect gift. I'm delighted to tell you Christmas does not have to mean hours in the kitchen and hours searching for the perfect present. With the tiniest bit of planning, we can make a show-stopping Christmas dinner and create something memorable that your guests can take home, and I'm going to show you how.
Welcome everybody to a super special Kay's Handmade Christmas. So today we are going to be making something really festive that we can either hang on the tree, we can use as last minute gifts for people that might just drop by, or we can also use it as a knitter. We can use it for something exciting for that as well. So as well as that, we are going to be doing some cooking and we are going to create a Christmas lunch. Now don't panic when I say that, because it honestly is not a hassle or a fuss at all. This recipe, it's actually a Delia Smith recipe and it's in her Christmas book, but it's also available online. And she sort of created this meal for a friend of hers who wanted all of the sort of yumminess of a Christmas dinner, but without the fuss and the hassle of cooking the entire thing in a traditional way. So we're going to have, in my case, chicken, but you could use turkey, and we're going to make it into like a roulade with stuffing in the middle of it, and then we're going to have some gorgeous oven roasted vegetables to go with it, and we're also going to make some gravy. That all sounds like we're going to do loads, and we are going to do loads, but honestly it's straightforward, it's simple, and the best thing about this, you can do it all beforehand. So you could pop into the kitchen on Christmas morning or even late Christmas Eve actually, if you're a night owl. You could do all of your prep. You can pop it in the fridge, and then all you've got to do on Christmas Day is literally bung it in the oven for about an hour, heat up your gravy, and Bob's your uncle. You've got an absolutely gorgeous Christmas lunch. So the first thing that we are going to do today is we're going to prep everything that we're going to need. So here on the table I've got everything that we're going to need. So first of all, you can see in the centre here I've got all of these lovely root vegetables. Now it's up to you what vegetables you use for this, but this is the selection that I like. So I've got some onions first of all, and we're going to use the onions in the vegetables and also for the gravy. We've got some carrots, parsnips. Parsnips are a must for me at Christmas. We've also got a turnip and a swede. I've got a couple of potatoes. So that's our root vegetables, and then the sort of meat side of it, I've got here 2 lovely free-range chicken breasts. You could use turkey breasts if you wanted to make it super festive, but I just prefer chicken. This meal is, because we've got 2 chicken breasts, you know, it's going to be for 2 people. However, the root vegetables, it makes a mountain. So all you need to do if you want to make it for more people is you need to make more of the chicken or turkey. So we've got some pork sausages to make into stuffing. When I make stuffing these days and it requires sausage meat, I prefer using actual sausages. So buy your favourite sausages, and then we're going to turn this into stuffing. We've got some streaky bacon there as well. That's a dry cured one. You can use smoked if you wanted to. This one's unsmoked. We've got some herbs. So I've got some fresh sage. You can use dried sage if you want to. And I've got dried thyme. You can use fresh thyme if you want to. We've got a couple of, in my case, it's chicken stock cubes, because I'm going to be making a sort of chickeny gravy. And then over here, I've got the kind of seasonings. So I've got some olive oil, pepper, salt, just a little bottle of white wine. You can use, if you've got a bit left over in your fridge, you know, just use that. I've got some plain flour, and then one ingredient that I haven't got here actually is we're going to need some breadcrumbs. but you'll see those when I prep them. And then the final thing is, I brought both of these because this is sort of an interesting thing really. I'm going to be using Henderson's Relish. However, this can be quite tricky to get hold of. It's quite a local ingredient. It's made in Sheffield. So if you can't get Henderson's, you can use Liam Perrin's Worcestershire sauce. I prefer Henderson's. Worcestershire sauce is a bit spicier, I find. So I'm going to use Henderson's, but if you can't find that, then Liam Perrin's works just as well. Okay, so that's everything that we're going to need. It's time now to get prepping. So this is where, if you're in a family situation, you can just, if there's somebody who wants to get involved in the prep work, then they can come on in and they can help you prep the veg. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to chop up my veg, I'm going to peel it, and then I'm going to chop it all into sort of equal sized chunks. They want to be nice, bite-sized sort of chunks, an inch or so. But what I will say, the swede always takes longer to cook. So I always cut this up into slightly smaller chunks than the rest of the ingredients because it's such a hard vegetable, it does take longer. So cut your swede a bit smaller. So I've got my huge bag of vegetables here. You saw me just chopping those up. What I was trying to show you with the onion, and I'm not sure that I showed you very well, is that you should leave the root on and then cut through in quarters with the root. When it roasts in the oven, it doesn't then all fall apart. And roasted onions, if you've never had a roasted onion, let me tell you, you are in for a treat. It's my favourite bit in this bag of veg. So I've got everything in the Ziploc bag. You can use a bowl if you want as well. You don't have to use bag if you prefer not to. So into here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a glug of olive oil. I just like the light olive oil. Tablespoon or so. I just sort of put in a bit like that. Then we're going to add in a sprinkle of the thyme. Some salt, and I use Maldon sea salt. So I'm just going to sprinkle some of that in there. A little bit of pepper. I loathe pepper, so I'm only putting in a little bit, but you go for it if you like it. And I've just bought this new pepper mill thing and it's absolute rubbish. And then the last thing that I didn't mention before actually is a clove of garlic. So I've got a clove of garlic and I'm just going to grate that in. If you've got one of those fancy garlic press thingies, you can use that, of course. I don't, I just grate. And the combination of, the oil with the garlic and the thyme and then the seasoning, it's so yummy. And then close up your Ziploc. Look, getting the air out as you do it. And then give it a good smoosh. Just smoosh away. Just to distribute all the seasonings and the oil so that all your vegetables get a coating of everything. There we go. So that now is ready essentially. So all you need to do with this is pop it in your fridge and it can stay in there for a couple of hours, and that gives it chance as well for the oil and the herbs and all of those seasonings to just sort of marinate, if you like, into all those lovely vegetables. So now we need to deal with the meat side of it. So we are now going to prep our stuffed roulards. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our chicken breasts and we need to flatten them. So to do that, I just use a rolling pin. You know, if you haven't, I haven't got one of those meat hammery things, but if you do, use it. I don't, so I just used a rolling pin. So what I did is I put a piece of cling film down, chicken breast on top, another piece of cling film on top of that, and then just giving it a good old bash with the rolling pin. And you want to flatten it out till it's about probably half a centimetre. So I'm not sure how big that will get you because it depends on the size of your chicken breasts or your turkey breasts. If you're using turkey, it's going to be much bigger. And the stuffing amount that I'm going to make, it does make enough for turkey if you're using turkey. So I always have some left over when I use chicken, but all you need to do if you've got some left over is just either make it into stuffing balls and roast it in the oven at the same time, or just stick it in a tray. So yeah, we now need to get on with the prep for the turkey. So we're going to make the stuffing by just de-skinning the sausages, mixing it with some breadcrumbs, some sage, some onion, squidging it all together, and some seasoning. Actually, I say seasoning, I don't actually put any salt or pepper into this because I'm using sausages and they're always really well seasoned anyway. Okay, so I've already actually prepped completely one of the chicken escallops, and I've completely prepped the other one here. So I'm just going to show you what I did. So you can see that it's in this fabulous little parcel now already. I've wrapped this in cling film and I'm going to chill this in the fridge because that will just firm everything up. You obviously don't cook it with the cling film on. Take the cling film off before you cook it. So I've got my chicken breast here, so I'm just going to grab some of the stuffing, and how much you'll need really depends on the size of your chicken breast or turkey breast, but you want to make like a little sausage that's going to fit lengthwise. It's like making a sausage roll, but it really is just like making a sausage roll. So I'm just going to squidge that out. That's probably about right, and you can see I've actually got quite a lot left. I'm going to have a bit more. So I am going to make those into little sort of stuffing burgers and just pop those in the oven when we put everything else in. So the aim is to squidge it along the middle like that. Make sure you go right to the edge. And we're now just going to roll one side over the other. So just grab one end of your chicken. It's quite a sticky substance, so it will stick quite nicely, and then just roll. And you can see I've got gloves on. You don't have to use gloves, but I've just got a bit of an aversion to touching raw meat. There we go. And what I'm going to do now is grab some bacon and we're going to wrap it around. So I just kind of grab the chicken and just start wrapping, and if you wrap it sort of nice and tight, it keeps everything together. So there's the first one. So once we've completed this prep, you know, we're done really well. We're going to make some gravy, but we're going to make the gravy whilst it's cooking in the oven, and it's really, again, no trouble to make it. But in terms of the actual meal itself, you know, that's the prep done. So I just need one more piece there on the end. There we go. And we've made a beautiful little parcel. So there's our first one. So now I'm going to get just one more piece of cling film just to wrap it up, and then we can pop these in the fridge just to chill down and to get really nice and firm. Okay, so all of our prep is done. It's all had some chilling time in the fridge. In reality, what will have happened is you will have done all this on Christmas morning, you've popped it in the fridge for 2 or 3 hours, and now it's about an hour, maybe an hour and a half before lunchtime, and all you need to do now is bung it all in the oven. So it all goes in the oven together. Now normally you just have 2 trays. I've got a third one here because I had extra stuffing left over, and I do have 3 sort of shelves in my oven, so I'm just going to put the stuffing just on the bottom shelf. I'm going to put the meat at the top and the vegetables in the middle. That's just because my oven, even though it's a fan oven, it does tend to be a bit hotter at the top. So it's all going to go into a hot oven about 200 degrees C for about an hour. Now that's a bit of a movable feast because all ovens are different, but you just want to make sure that your meat is absolutely thoroughly cooked all the way through, and your vegetables will be nice and brown and crispy, and you can just stab them with a skewer to make sure that they're all nice and tender. But it takes about an hour to maybe an hour and 10 minutes, I would say, depending on your oven. So I'm going to pop all of this in the oven, and then we can get to making the gravy. Okay, so we're now going to make a quick onion gravy to go with it. So I think traditionally gravy can be quite a big event, can't it? Certainly in this country it can be quite a big event where Christmas is concerned. I'm not going to do that. When I've made this before, like I said, I've just done a quick onion gravy because I find that onion gravy tends to go with anything, and it certainly goes with this really, really well. Now, if you want to make some other kind of gravy, then by all means do so. If you want to make, dare I say, some instant gravy, I am not going to judge you for it, absolutely not. So I've got an onion. You can use 1 or 2 onions, it's up to you. It depends on how oniony you want it. I'm just going to use 1 onion. I've got a couple of chicken stock cubes, a clove of garlic, and then I'm going to be using my Henderson's, but like I said before, you can use Lea & Perrins if you prefer. I'll just be using a glass of white wine, a bit of olive oil to cook the onion in, seasoning, so salt and pepper, and then I'm going to put a bit of thyme into the gravy as well, because then that links to the thyme that we put in with the veg. And then the last thing is just something to thicken it, and I'm just going to use some plain flour. I've used spelt flour whenever I've said, for example, the breadcrumbs, that was spelt bread, and I'm using spelt flour as well. You don't have to, it's just what we use here because it's nicer on your tummy, we find anyway, the normal flour. So what we're going to do is we're going to finely slice the onion into sort of half moon shapes, really nice and thin, and we're going to cook that in using the olive oil, just probably about a tablespoon of olive oil in a pan. Gently cook the onion for about 10 or 15 minutes. It doesn't have to caramelise, because with onion gravy sometimes it wants you to caramelise the onions, which can take forever. So with this we don't have to caramelise it, but we do want to thoroughly cook them. So they should be translucent when, you know, give it 10 or 15 minutes, stir it a few times. We're then going to add in the garlic, because we don't want to burn the garlic, so we'll add that in after we've cooked the onions. And then we're going to add the flour, so a tablespoon of flour into the onions, and that will then create a kind of gooey onion roux type substance. And then we'll add the stock, so we'll add the wine, and then we'll add some hot chicken stock as well, and then season it and use a good glug of Henderson's, because not only does that add a load of flavour, it gives it a nice colour as well. So there we go, everything is cooking away nicely, and it just smells absolutely divine in the kitchen right now, that's all I can say. So So come back in part 2 when we are going to do our festive crafting. Whilst that's cooking away in the oven, you can pop off to your craft room if you've got one, or your kitchen table or wherever you want, and we're going to do our Christmas crafting, and then we are going to plate up the delicious Christmas lunch and we're going to eat it, and I've got a very special guest. So I will see you back soon.
Now that looks delicious. You can't have Christmas without a good bit of stuffing.
No.
And we need some delicious parsnips.
Oh, yes.
But what's the turnip going to taste like?
What is the turnip going to taste like?
We shall find out later on the show. Along with, I'm getting very excited about these felt ornaments.
Yes, we've not seen any of that yet.
Just a tiny glimpse.
Oh, a tiny glimpse. I won't show you what I've got on my desk then just yet.
It's going to be just spectacular. Wait till you see them. For me, well, I'm not going to say anything because it's all coming later on in the show. But my goodness, hope you enjoyed that. Wasn't that fun?
I hope you enjoyed that.
Oh,
and
yes.
I said we're actually going to make those for New Year's, aren't we,
Yeah.
this year? Because... And next year, we've already ordered our Christmas food this year, but next year I think I'm going to say I want to make those for Christmas Day. It's fantastic cold as well. Really, really good. Really, really good cold.
Yes. I mean, it's just spectacular.
Yeah.
You know, and the stuff. Well, we haven't even tried it yet.
No.
So you'll find out later on in the show.
You haven't seen us try it.
You shall find out later on in the show. Oh, yes.
Getting too excited and telling you too much.
So, for us to get to all that loveliness, it's time for me to ask, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
So, yes, I finished some things. So the first thing I finished is Bryony's Christmas socks.
These are amazing.
And they are amazing. They just look fantastic.
Yeah.
Are these not the most...
It's a great colourway.
Fantastic. I mean, it's a brilliant colourway. This yarn's by Freckled Whimsy. I've got loads left over.
Just you have.
It's peppermint mocha, and yet we know that we got it wrong as to what a mocha was. Lots of people told us that it's actually coffee with chocolate.
I'm very glad I got it wrong.
Yeah,
because I like to drink proper coffee.
Coffee with chocolate. I love coffee. I just can't drink it. But coffee is coffee, and I wouldn't put anything with coffee. I know there's lots of different flavoured coffees these days. But anyway, we do now know.
Many years ago,
chocolate with coffee.
Many years ago, I used to drink whiskey, and I was highly offended by anyone who put anything in whiskey.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about coffee as I do with whiskey.
You didn't even put ice in it, did you?
It depends. It would depend on what the whiskey was. But sometimes it would be really nice to have just a cube of
ice,
mineral water, frozen, dropped in it, because then it sort of changed the drink the whole time you were drinking it.
Yeah, because some people add water to whiskey, don't they, anyway? Yeah, Dan does not approve of that behaviour, if you're one of those people.
But I had my last drink of whiskey in 2014 and not had one since, and won't be either.
No, you don't miss it, do you?
No. I don't miss any alcohol at all because I'm high on life.
Oh, dear me. Do you feel sorry for me having to deal with this constantly? Because honestly, this is what it's like all the time.
24/7, baby.
It is a bit wearing sometimes.
Why do you think she looks so young?
Yeah, right. Anyway, my socks, or Bryony's socks, I should say, are lovely, aren't they? So yeah, it's Freckled Whimsy, peppermint mocha, loads left. And you can see I've still got a little bit of the contrast left, which was a 20-gram mini, and I got cuffs, heels and toes. You can't always do that. If you're knitting a 72-stitch sock, especially, you would probably run short, I would say. And also if you do a really long cuff, then you might struggle because there's not a lot left. I would say I've probably only got maybe 3 grams-ish probably there, maybe 4 at the most left over. But don't they look lovely? So these are knit with my Fairground socks pattern, and I think it just looks fantastic.
I think actually my favourite bit in it is the bit where it goes mad.
The variegated bit.
Because then it comes back normal really quick.
Isn't that fun, where it's variegated?
I think it's the perfect size, that variegated bit.
Yeah.
Were it any bigger than that?
It's like double the width of a stripe, I think. It's like 2 stripes, the variegated bit.
Super.
And I just love them. So they're all finished and will be going with Bryony's pyjamas that she gets on Christmas Eve.
Great.
So she'll get socks and pyjamas on
And
Christmas
so should
Eve.
you.
Yes, if you
yes.
yeah, you need to finish those.
There's no
Give them
if about it.
Give them a nice soak.
Yes.
And then I'll put them with my pyjamas.
Beautiful.
I always make sure that I wash the pyjamas as well so that they can be worn.
Yeah,
I'm
you
really
don't want
funny.
pyjamas out of the packet.
I'm really funny about wearing clothes that haven't been washed. I don't know if anybody else is funny about this, but I always make sure that I wash anything before I wear it. So I always wash. So I made a note in one of my little books, and I started these socks because I think this is interesting, isn't it, to sort of log how long they take you. I started these on the 17th of November and I finished them on the 10th of December. So that's pretty good going. And this was using it was using my 10 rounds a day thing that I do, but I was doing 12 rounds. But to get them, I put pressure on myself to get these finished to show you now. They weren't due to be finished for a few days. So I bumped up the amount of rows I was doing each day on these and on the next thing I'll show you. So I was doing 16 rounds a day on these to get them finished. And that's a bit much with other stuff as well. You know, the 10 rounds a day is perfect. So yeah, but anyway, they're done.
You said other stuff.
Other stuff.
What's the other stuff?
So I finished Dan's Christmas socks too.
I get these and a new pair of pyjamas on Christmas Eve. Except
You
I don't.
You don't
'cause I
get
wear
pyjamas, but you do get something. So
Oh.
yes, you do.
Oh.
So I finished Dan's Christmas socks as well. Now I don't have a blocker big enough for these. I do have a large sock blocker, but even that's not big enough for Dan's foot, which always looks ridiculous.
And that looks
but-
like the Back to the Future colourway.
Well, this is yarn that I dyed. There is 2 socks here. It's
Just a
hard
bit
to
more
tell because
saturated.
it's 2 socks. Look.
This is better than the Back to the Future colour.
And yeah, Dan had a pair of socks that I knit years ago out of No Maker's yarn, and it was called 88 miles per hour. It was a Back to the Future themed yarn, and they wore out. You wore them for years, to be fair.
I did.
They eventually wore out. So, and she doesn't dye anymore, No Makers, as we all know. So I dyed this yarn in sort of honour of it. It's mad. It's very, very speckled, but fun.
It's brilliant.
And I did a 1x1 broken rib.
Amazing.
And it does slow it down. But I know that Dan likes a ribbed sock. So yeah, they're all done. So 72 stitches, massively long foot. Dan's foot is about 12.5 inches long. And I do a modified umbrella toe here. It's longer than a normal toe, a normal umbrella toe. I can't remember how many rounds I add, but this fits his toe really well as well.
Thank you very much.
So they're all finished.
And there's even a blanket.
Yes, so the last thing, yeah, there is a blanket, but it's not what you think. So the last thing is, right, I wanted to make a little hand knitted blanket, toy blanket as a gift for someone for Christmas. And I thought, I started knitting a mini jelly roll blanket, and it's really cute and sweet. But as I was knitting it, I'm thinking, I'm not going to get this done in time.
Birthday.
I'm just not. So yeah, maybe I'll use it as a birthday present for her, which is in a few months. And I thought, have I got anything in my sort of stock of things that randomly
There's not many
knit
rooms that don't have
things?
small finished blankets in.
So I went to this sort of little storage area where we've got several things that have never been used and are just random. And I found a mitered square piece of work, which I've no idea why I started it. I've no idea what the intention was for it.
Or when in fact you did
or
it.
when I did it.
But anyway.
And I thought, you know what? I could add a border to that and that'd make a perfect toy blanket. So
And
that's
you were
what I've
right.
done. So I've added a border. I've given it a lovely soak. So it's nice and fresh and clean. And I've got a nice, little toy blanket.
Spectacular.
So I've no idea when I made these
Ooh,
mitered
lovely.
squares.
They're good.
Can you see I've added a dark green border in the same way that I added the border onto my last mitered square piece that I showed you recently. So I just did it by picking up all the stitches, knitting a row and then binding off and going all the way around. I explained it all when I showed this before. I think I must have made this with the intention of it being a cushion cover. That's all I can think. And then either I just got bored or whatever. I don't even remember. But the patchwork nature of this just works really well for the person it's going to and for the thing that it's going to be used with. So yeah, that's all finished, and great to have a use for this thing that's just been sat around. You never know, see, you never know. You make these random things and you think, oh no, I don't want to carry on with that, and you pop it away and look what happens.
It's
you
like
can
me and my
use
wire
it.
cupboard.
Don't even ask me about Dan and his wire cupboard.
Look, is that all your lovely objects?
So yeah, that's all finished. So yes, that's all of my finished things.
Wonderful, because we want to get making our amazing felt ornaments.
Yes.
And then trying our delicious Christmas dinner.
We do.
So let's get back to Kay's Handmade Christmas.
Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of Kay's Handmade Christmas. So our delicious Christmas lunch is simmering away in the oven. So we've got just enough time now to get our Christmas crafting done. So we're going to go off, we're going to gather some supplies, and we're going to make such a sweet little decoration, or it could be a little gift as well.
So this is what we're going to be making today. It's this sweet little heart with this little snowy scene on it, and I've got a few different colours here, as you can see, that I've already made. So we are going to make the little heart, we're going to sew on the snowdrift, embroider the tree and the little snowflakes, and then put it all together. So yeah, you're going to need a heart template. Now you can freehand draw this. I actually did freehand draw mine. Or you can go online and there's loads of different free downloadable heart templates that you could go and do. You're then going to need a little snowdrift template. Now to do this, it's really simple. So I'll show you what I did. I got my heart template sorted first of all. And then just get yourself another piece of paper. I'm using a thicker paper. I think it's like a drawing sort of paper. All you need to do is draw around it. And when we've got that, we can draw the little snowdrift. So you can see this is the shape that I initially drew, but I didn't, I just drew it. I didn't have a template as such. So all you need to do, we need to start a little way in from the edge because we're going to stitch here. And I just drew it. So, do this however you want, really. So if you look, I went quite high up here on the side, and then it's a bit lower on this side. And then you just sort of curve it and sweep up. And if you need to just go over like that. See, it looks slightly different to this one, but it doesn't matter. However you draw your little snowdrift will be absolutely fine. And then you just cut that out. So cut that shape out, and then you'll have your little snowy template that when you bring in your heart and you pop it on top, it's going to look like that. So that's our template sorted. And then we're going to need some felt. Now I like the felt that is a mixture of wool and viscose in this case. So this is the brand that I used, and I got these in a little bundle. But it's up to you, whatever felt. You might have felt lying around more than likely. So I'm going to be using these two colours. So you're going to need a background colour and then your snowdrift. So you can play around with that and do whatever you want with regards to the colours. We're going to need a needle. I've got mine here ready. I like these sashiko needles, but whatever you prefer, you're just going to need a nice sharp embroidery needle that's going to push through your felt really easily. We're going to need some nice sharp embroidery scissors, a little bit of ribbon for the hanging loop. You can see this is just the sort of standard ribbon that you can get, in any sort of craft or haberdashery shop. You don't have to use ribbon. You could use something more like this. However, I would say it is a bit more difficult to sew when you've got something like this. The ribbon is really easy, so if you can find ribbon, I would recommend that. I like to scallop the edges when I'm cutting out. So these are like pinking shears, but instead of being a zigzag, they're a scallop. Can you see that there? It's just really pretty. It gives a really pretty edge. Not essential, you can just cut it without using these, and that's not a problem, but I'm going to use these. And then we're going to need our threads. Now I'm using DMC Cotton Pearl number 8. If you want to use embroidery floss instead, that's absolutely fine. The cotton pearl is about the equivalent of 3 strands of embroidery floss. So if you're going to replace it, you'd need to hold 3 strands together to get that same sort of thickness. And I've just chosen colours here that are going to work really nicely. But again, entirely up to you what colours you choose. And then finally, just a little bit of stuffing. I've just got some polyester. Is it polyester? I don't know. Acrylic-y toy stuffing. If you don't have any of this, but you do have like leftover little bits of fabric or yarn ends or anything like that, then you can stuff it with that if you want to. But I had this in, so I'm just going to use a bit of toy stuffing. So that's everything that we're going to need. So the first thing we've got to do is to cut out our templates. Okay, so I've got my felt here ready to cut out my templates. So I'll do the little snowdrift first. What I actually like to do when I'm drawing around this is I like to flip it, because then it means that where the pencil line is, you're not going to see that because we're going to use the other side. I just use a pencil, to be honest. You can use one of the erasable fabric markers if you want to, but you know, not everybody has those. So everybody's got a pencil. So I just prefer to use that. So I'm just going to draw around my snowdrift, and I find that felt is more, it's happier, let's say, if you make sort of little marks, you know, instead of trying to go like that. I find if you do it in little sections like that, it doesn't drag on the felt. So keep your finger there, and then there we go, nice and easy. So this one I'm going to cut out with my little sharp scissors, and what I try and do is just trim off all that excess. We can use that for another one, and then I'm just going to cut it out. So there we go, we've got that cut out, and you can see on this side you can kind of see the pencil markings, but we're actually going to be using it that way around. And we need to do the same thing for the heart, except this time we're going to use those fancy scalloping shears. Now what I do with the heart, because this is only because I sort of freehand drew this, so it might not be exactly a mirror image. So what I like to do is for one side of the heart, because we need 2 pieces, obviously front and back, I just draw around it like this, and then for the other side I turn the heart template over so that I know when I put them together it's going to be a really nice match. So there's that side, and then I flip it over. And I'm just hedging my bets here, you know, it's not really necessary, but I know that if I do this, I'm going to get a really nice match-up of my 2 halves, my 2 pieces. There we go. So the first thing I do now is to just separate the 2 pieces, because that just makes the cutting out so much easier. So I'll show you one, and then you can get on and do the other. Now I've found the easiest way of doing this with these scalloping shears is to line up the edge so that you see these bottom bits of the, what would you call them? Do you know the bottom of the sort of arc here? Line these up as you're cutting with the pencil line. So we're actually cutting sort of outside the pencil line. So I'll show you what I mean. I always start down here. So open them nice and wide so we get a good run. And then can you see how I'm lining it up here so that that bottom arc is just touching the pencil line. And then what I then do is move it down and line up a scallop with that last one. Can you see that? And then just carry on. Take your time doing this. I've found that, you know, don't rush it. So again, I'm lining up that last scallop, look, and then gently round the curve. And then this is the trickiest bit, obviously, when we get to the heart bit, just stop there. And then turn and pick it up again, doing the same thing. Down to the end. So there we go, I flipped it over, look, and we've got such a pretty little edge now to our heart. So I'm going to cut the other one out and then we can get to the sewing. Okay, so there we go, we've got our two lovely heart templates and our little snowdrift. And when we put these together, so we're going to put pencil lined side to pencil lined side like that, and you can see how nicely that's going to fit together. Can you see that? And that's because we flipped the template. Our snowdrift is going to sit on top like that. So now we can separate them off. We don't need that back piece right now because we are going to work on the front here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew on the snowdrift. So we want our white thread for that. And what I really like about this cotton pearl, it's just one strand. So I find it's a bit less faffy than having to use 3 strands of the embroidery floss. So I just cut off a length and, you know, whatever I think is going to be enough to go all the way around. There's probably too much, to be fair, but we'll go with it. Now I'm going to put a knot at the end, and all I do to do a knot is I kind of damp my finger and I wrap it around like that and then twist and pull, and that gives you a nice knot at the end. So because this side is going to be inside the heart, we don't need to worry about that knot being here because it'll be inside the heart when we're finished. So we want to make sure that we place this where we want it to be. I don't use pins or anything because it's such a little piece. I don't find it's necessary, but if you wanted to pop a pin in, then by all means do so, but I don't bother. So I'll just place it where it's going to be, and you want to leave enough of a gap because this is where we're going to stitch around to sew the 2 pieces together. So then I turn it the other way, I grab hold of it, turn it the other way and make sure we're still happy with the position. And then I tend to start here on the side, and we're just going to do like a little whip stitch. So the knot is safely there. So I'm just going to go back down. Yeah, I've pulled off too much thread there, but you'll forgive me. And I'm just going to work a little whip stitch. The stitches don't need to be particularly close together. All we're doing is holding this in place. So it really does take just a couple of minutes to go all the way round, I find. Try and keep your stitches the same size, but honestly, it really doesn't matter. So there we are back at the beginning. So to finish off, just flip it over. And then felt's really good for this. You can kind of grab a few sort of fibres like that without going all the way through. And I just do that and then do it again. But then this time go through the loop just to make a knot. And that will secure it nicely. And then just trim that off. And there's our snowdrift sewn on. The next thing we are going to do is to embroider a lovely tree on here. So to do that, I'm going to need a bit of brown, and I'm going to do a dark green tree here. So these shades, the green is 904 and the brown is 300. So the first thing to do is to mark where our trunk is going to be. So we just need a little bit of brown thread. So same thing, I'm just going to make a little knot at the end. Now the tree is going to stand sort of in this area here. I like to place the trunk round about here. Honestly, it doesn't matter. If you wanted to put it right in the middle, you can put it in the middle. So all we're going to do is just go from the back and just think, right, where do you want it to be? And that's about the right place there. So needle through, and all I'm going to do is 3 stitches. So however long you want your trunk, it's about that length for me. And I'm going to do another 2 of those stitches by the side of that one, close to the last one. So that's 1, and if it's a bit wonky like that, it doesn't matter, it adds to the charm. And 1 more. There we go. And that's our little tree trunk. And then we just need to finish that one off like we did the last one. So you can see really this just takes, the whole thing start to finish takes me normally about an hour. So snip that. There's our tree trunk. And now we can do the tree. So we're going to need green, and just cut off a length which is comfortable to embroider with. I find that I can get the whole tree done with 1 length of thread, but if you need to do another length, it's not a problem at all. A knot again. The way that we're going to work this, let me bring in one of the little trees. So you can see this one, I did a silvery grey tree. So we're just going to do little stitches like we did for the trunk across, but when we get to the sides, we're just going to angle them a little bit. And we're going to do 4 rows of that, leaving a gap in between. I've found the best way of working this is to work from the middle to one side, and then back to the middle, and then the other side. So I'm going to start again by popping my needle through the back, just like that, right in the centre of the trunk. And then make your first straight stitch, whatever length you want your sort of branches to be. But generally it's about that length, whatever that is. So now I'm going to work in this direction. Now you can make your tree a tall skinny one if you wanted, or a more broader tree. I just sort of go with whatever I fancy at the time. So I just go back to the beginning and back down again. And we don't have to worry about leaving little gaps or anything like that, because like I said, it kind of looks better if it's a bit naive. And sometimes I'll go sort of back in at the bottom there instead of going back to the top. You use less thread if you do that. Don't worry about your felt edge of your snowdrift. If you go over it, it's fine. If you stay within it, it's fine. Just kind of ignore it really. So I make a few straight-ish stitches, and then you need to start thinking about when you are going to sort of angle it out a bit. I might do 1 more like that, and then have a think about just starting to angle it slightly so that we get a bit of a tree shape. Can you see that? There we go. So that's one side. Now we need to get back to the middle. So what I do is I just flip it over and just run your needle underneath your green stitches and get back to that centre point. There we go. So we're back to the middle now. So now we can work the other way. So just do the same thing, but if you find one side is a bit longer than the other, again, don't worry. Okay, so there we go. I've done that first row of branches, and I just need to bring my needle back to that centre point again. So just go through your stitches to get back to the middle. So now it's just a case of repeating that going up the tree. So let me bring in this one that's green here. Actually, with this one I used a variegated thread. Can you see how it fades slightly up here? I wasn't sure whether I liked it or not, but you can also do that if you fancy it. So all I'm going to do now is just do 3 more layers like that, each time making your rows a bit shorter until you get it into this sort of triangle shape like that, working it exactly the same way that I did that first row of branches. Okay, so there's our sweet little pine tree. We've got the choice now of adding a star to the top of the tree. If you want to make it kind of, you know, like it's a little festive tree in the woods, then you can add a star to the top. So for that, I've got this gold thread, which is 676. So for the star, all I did, you can see, just find the sort of centre point that you're working out from, and then we're just going to do 5 little stitches. So let's say the centre point wants to be about there, I would say. So bring that up and then work a straight stitch up and then go back to that kind of centre point, but you want to leave a gap in the middle to put a French knot. So that's our 5 little points of the star, and then we're going to do a French knot in the middle. Now we're going to do some French knots for the snow. Don't panic when I say French knots, because they're so easy, and I find them particularly easy on felt. But I'll show you what to do. So we want to come up in the middle there, okay? But all you do, we're going to wrap twice around the needle, and then pop it back down and pull a bit of tension on it there. When you pop it back down, it wants to be just a little distance away from where we came up. And then that's it. There we go. We've got a cute little star on top of the tree. So let's finish off that yellow thread, and then it's made a bit of a loop, but it's fine, doesn't matter, no one's going to see that. So now all that's left to do in terms of embroidery is to pop on some snowflakes. So we are going to do French knots like we've just done. Now when you move over, just remember you're going to have a strand on the back like that, so don't pull too tight. Okay, so there we go. Isn't it sweet? So we've finished our little embroidered scene, and now it's time to sew the 2 halves together and finish off the heart. So what we're going to do, just pop 1 half on top of the other. If you have any little threads that are sticking out, just pop them in. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew these together using a running stitch, because it's really easy, it's really quick, and it works perfectly. So cut yourself off a length. You also need your ribbon. Now I cut this, it's about 9 inches, the length of this, but the length doesn't really matter. It's up to you, basically, the length. And the way that I judge it is, it's going to be buried in here because we want to make sure it's secure. So if you just sort of bury about 1 inch like that, and then that'll be looped over, and then that's going to go back in there. So you just have to judge if that's too big or too small or whatever. You can always like shove it down a bit further like that into the heart. But this, like I said, this is 9 inches, and I find that that's about the right length to get a nice loop there. So we're ready now to start sewing the 2 halves together. Now what I do is I turn it around. So I make sure that it's lined up at the very tip, and I'm going to start sewing together about here. I don't like to start in the very, pointed end. I like to start a little bit further up. So did I put a knot? Yes, I did. And when we start off, actually, what I'm going to do is go through just one layer like that so that it buries the knot inside. So just tuck that inside like that. And now we start going through both layers. And I'm just going to do a running stitch. And it's up to you, you know, how far apart it is. It doesn't want to be too far apart because we are going to stuff this. But I find that, I mean, I don't know how big these stitches are. You can see, can't you? But that is about perfect. So I'm going to work my way around until I get to the point where we're going to put the ribbon in. Okay, so we're at the point now, we've sewn around here, so we're right at that centre point here of the curve of the heart. So we're going to slot in the first side of the ribbon. So what I do is I sort of open it up and then I put it down quite a distance. Can you see that? And that makes sure it's nice and secure. And then close your heart up. And what you want to do is when you make that next stitch, you want to come up through the ribbon. So your needle wants to pierce the ribbon inside. So you can generally sort of feel if you've done that. But what I do is I just look. Can you see there? We've pierced through the ribbon. And then make a stitch which goes the other side of the ribbon. And now I'm going to go over that stitch again, so duplicate it basically, go over exactly where the stitch is. You won't notice this in the finished heart, but this really just secures that ribbon. Whoops. So just go over exactly the spot that we did for the other stitch. So, you're not going to notice that there's two stitches, but that's now nice and secure in there. So now I'm going to sew around to the second point where we put the other end of the ribbon in. Okay, so I'm to the point over here where I need to pop in the other end of the ribbon. And I'm just having a look at the length of this. And it probably is a bit too long, this ribbon, so we can trim it. So that's going to come down to about there. So I'm just going to trim that off. There we go. So now we can pop in the other end. So you just want to make sure that when you loop it around that you don't twist your ribbon. So now what I need to do is work around to about here, because then we need to stuff it. So I'm going to go around here and stop about here. Right, so I've left a gap here now to pop in a bit of stuffing. You just want to put a bit of stuffing in there to give it a nice bit of shape. So what I do is I pop a bit in and go up to this first side of the heart over here and make sure that's a nice shape. And then get a bit more and go over to the other side. So that's giving the top of the heart a nice bit of poof. And then I get another bit and stick that into the middle. And now we need to sew it up a bit more. Right, so I've just got this little gap now at the bottom, so just get a little bit more stuffing. And just pop that in. Okay, and then we'll just need to finish the very final bit. So this last stitch, we're going to go back down, but now this very final stitch here, we're only going to go through that bottom layer. So let me see if I can show you. Can you see here? We're just going to go through the bottom layer. Can you see my needles there coming between the two pieces? And what I'm going to do to sort of effectively weave in is just go through that bottom layer and then go up to one of these other stitches that's a couple of stitches away. So that now looks really neat there, and just go over it like that, and then make sure you've not gone through to the other side. Yeah, that's fine. We're going to bury it inside the stuffing, so work your needle all the way sort of through to the other side like that. Then pull it and then just straighten that up. So that's now, that thread's now buried in there. It's not going to come out because we secured it down there, and it's all the way through the stuffing, so we can snip that. So that is our heart all finished, and isn't it sweet? So you can do lots of things with these. You can make loads and go and hang them on your Christmas tree. You can attach them to parcels. You know, if you've got a special parcel, maybe for a crafty friend, then that would be really lovely. But one of my favourite things to do is to actually attach them to a knitting project bag. If you grab the ends like this of the ribbon, like that, you can squish it through. Do you see the zip here? There's a hole in the zip. There we go. Grab it like that, and then just push that over the top, pull it, and look at that. I know it doesn't really match the bag, but you understand what I'm saying. So that's my favourite way of using these, and then you've got such a lovely little reminder of that crafty time at Christmas.
Right, so we have completed our Christmas crafting. We've made that beautiful felt decoration, so I really hope you enjoy making one if you do that yourself. I've hung it on the tree already, and our guest has just arrived, so it's time now to plate up.
This looks very special. My goodness. I feel very lucky. Oh my goodness. Wow. That is spectacular, and the smell.
To join you. Does it feel like, you know, if you had that for your Christmas lunch, would you be happy?
I'd be more than happy.
Well, we'll see, won't we? I'll put you on a extra stuffing bowl because I know you're very partial to stuffing.
And the stuffing's amazing.
Oh, veggies nose.
How is your knit along going?
How is the knit along going?
Yes.
It's going extremely well. Everyone is on the foot now. So how are your adventures going this December then?
Well, spectacular actually.
Excellent.
Amazing walk along the river.
Yeah.
The most gorgeous church. St Oswald's Church was just spectacular, and I had no idea that I'd be able to get in. I honestly thought I'd be stuck outside.
Quite often these days churches are not open.
No, it's true. That is as good a Christmas dinner as I've had. Completely spectacular. It's got everything that you would expect.
Parsnip.
And more, to be honest.
So there we go. That is a beautiful Christmas lunch with none of the stress. And we also made that gorgeous decoration that you can hang on your tree, or you can stash away for those guests that, you know, very likely will just drop in at this time of year. So I hope you all enjoyed that, and all that is left to do is for us to wish you
a very Merry Christmas. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
What a show! And what a special guest!
Oh, yes. Did you enjoy my special guest?
Home from my adventures, ready to eat my delicious Christmas dinner, and I can tell you through experience, it's spectacular.
It was super yummy. It was lovely. And we actually only ate half of one of those each for lunch. It would easily serve 4. You know, I mean, comes out much bigger than you think. I can't even imagine how big it would be if you actually used turkey.
Massive.
They would be enormous.
You'd have enough for 4 with 2 breasts, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, absolutely.
Unless you were really big eaters.
Unless you were really big eaters.
And that ornament, I mean, for me, these ornaments, if I went round to someone's house for like a little Christmas party or Christmas dinner or something, and one of these, you can imagine them on your table setting.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
It would be like, oh my goodness. That would be
lovely. So this is the one I made on the video.
A cherished
And you
gift.
can see the back is super neat as well. I didn't show the back, but the back is really neat. And then this one I made for Bryony. She wanted a green one. And she wanted a purple ribbon for some reason. I don't know, it seems a bit random to me, but I did say earlier, didn't I? Green and purple look nice. So that was Bryony's. And then I did say when I was making it that I had made one of the stars using the metallic thread, and I forgot to show you when I was making them. But it was on this pink one. This was a prototype that doesn't have the crimped edge, and I used a leather cord, which was a bit trickier, so that's why I didn't want to use that. But if you look at the little star up there, it's metallic, it's with metallic thread. But it just didn't actually sparkle and stand out as much as just using a gold-coloured floss. So I didn't use that again. I think maybe if you doubled it, it might be better. But it was a bit awkward to use as well. And then I've got a lovely blue one, which I think is really pretty. So yeah, I've got a few of these now.
Amazing.
Oh, and then this one. Did I show you that one? Dark grey one. I love that one.
Beautiful.
So fun and really quick. You know, honestly, an hour start to finish. Yeah.
So that's it, our big festive offering for the year.
I hope you enjoyed that.
And the next time we see you will actually be 2024.
Yes.
And there's going to be lots of brand new shows. So to find out all about that, I think it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
So yes, that is it. This is our final show.
The final show of the year, everybody.
2023.
Goodness.
But our Christmas continues
Yeah.
right up to the 24th of December.
It does.
With the Bakery Bears Advent Calendar.
Yeah.
So every day, special video. But remember as well that every patron on the 24th of December gets Kay's first platinum pattern of 2024.
And I can tell you what that is now because everybody's partway through knitting the item.
It's the Nutcracker socks.
It's the Nutcracker socks.
Woohoo!
So our mystery knit along for this year for the Advent Calendar is a pair of socks, and everyone now is on the foot.
Amazing.
On the foot of the socks. So I will show you the completed socks in the first show of the new year. I can't obviously show you right now because we're still in the mystery knitting phase. But it's just been fantastic. We've loved it.
So 24th of December, that's when that pattern officially launches. And as I said before, everyone who is a patron gets that pattern. Then.
Yeah.
Not afterwards.
No.
Just then. It's our special Christmas gift.
So when you get it, download it, everybody. Yeah.
But our seasonal content, it doesn't even end on the 24th of December because on the 26th of December, we've got our bumper Christmas special issue of our magazine.
Yeah.
Perfect for that sort of in-between period between Christmas and New Year.
Yes.
And then on the 28th of December, it's the show that so many people look forward to. It's when Kay reveals her top 5 yarns.
Top 5 yarns.
Of the year.
What's it going to be?
So that's going to be like super, super spectacular.
Yes.
And then the next time that we're back here, it's the first Friday of the year. I think it's the 5th of January.
Yes.
But I'll put it in the show notes
I think it
below.
is the 5th.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we're going to be launching one of Kay's brand new shows.
We are.
And it's called the Yarny Book Club.
The Yarny Book Club.
Now, do you think we should show everyone the introduction to the Yarny Book Club?
I think we should. I think that would be nice.
So let's take a look. It's only a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Because we're only just going into filming right now. It's all going to be filmed before Christmas, so it's ready for you on the 5th of January. But here is the music and the introduction to the Yarny Book Club. amazing is that? Kate, tell us about the show.
So this show is going to be a series of 6 yarn dyeing yarn dyeing shows. But the theme of it is based around books. So each time I will have chosen a book and I'm going to dye yarn inspired by that book. And then, when we've gone through all of that process and we've got the yarn at the end of it, I thought it would be fun if I actually knit all of these yarns. There's going to be 6 of them all together. If I knit them into a project. So I'm going to be doing that as well as part of the series. So there won't be a written pattern or anything like that.
But you'd be telling everyone what you're doing.
I will tell you what I'm doing as I go along. So if you wanted to join in with me, then you absolutely can. It won't be as detailed as My Favourite Blanket. But you'll certainly get all of the information that you will need to knit the thing that I will be knitting. It's just something simple, straightforward, and that will show off all of the colours kind of individually.
And what's so exciting too is people are going to get some great book recommendations.
Yes, so it's not like there's no requirement to read the book or anything like that. It's not like a book club in that respect. All it is that I will have read this book at some point. It might be that it's a new book to me, or it might be that it's one of my old favourites. So I will have read the book and I'll tell you a bit about the book and I'll explain to you which bits of it inspired the colourway, that kind of thing. So if you wanted to read the book, absolutely you can, or you might already know it and you might want to go back and have a refresh of it. You can dye along with me if you want to, like you did with My Favourite Blanket, or you can just sit and enjoy the whole thing and just enjoy watching me create the yarn and then knit it into something.
Wonderful. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
It's going to be fun.
We're going to be filming it in a very different way to anything that we've done before.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really different and cool, and we can't wait to debut that on the 5th of January.
Yeah.
Forgot to mention actually that our patron exclusive content that actually commences on the 2nd of January. And if you want to find out more about what's coming up for our patrons, then do join us, patrons, on the 24th of December. Because we'll be talking about everything
Christmas message time.
Christmas message, and then we talk about what's coming up through January, because there's some amazing things coming up.
There is.
Like a special super duper issue of the My Favourite Blanket pattern.
Oh, yes.
Say nothing, act casual. We'll talk more about that on the 24th of December. So for now, thank you so much for watching. A huge Merry Christmas.
Thank you, everybody. We hope you have just such a fantastic festive time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we will see you in 3 weeks for the first show of 2024, where we will launch the Yarny Book Club.
See you soon, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Who's it sitting and knitting? It's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in